It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hey friends, this is Andy. Do you know Engagio? They're leading the revolution in account-based sales and account-based marketing. Engagio enables companies like yours to orchestrate human connections at scale and build hyper-growth sales engines. Let's meet Joe Chernoff.
I'm Joe Chernoff, the VP of Marketing for Insight Squared. Our very first purchase when we shifted models was Engagio. Engagio very quickly became the centerpiece of our account-based marketing strategy, both the technology as well as the content they provide.
Engagio's platform lets you engage the right account at the right time so you can close more deals faster. So if you're interested in joining leaders like Insight Squared in the account-based everything revolution, then be sure to visit engagio.com/accelerate and download your copy of their new book, The Clear and Complete Guide to Account-Based Sales Development, and then come back and listen to the rest of this exciting episode of Accelerate. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. I'm excited to talk with my guest today. Joining me on the show is Sam Richter. Sam is the founder and CEO of SBR Worldwide, Know More. That's the know as in knowledge more, and author of bestseller Take the Cold Out of Cold Calling, as well as the developer of some really cool technology, some of which we're going to talk about today, some custom search engines for the internet. So Sam, welcome to Accelerate.
Hey, thank you so much. It's really an honor when I look at all the people you've spoken to and spoken with. Wow, it's a heck of a list. So it's really an honor to be on that list.
Well, you deserve it. It's only world-class experts on this show. So welcome. We're excited to talk to you.
Thank you.
How'd you get your start in sales? Maybe introduce yourself a little bit to the audience beyond what I told them.
Sure. Well, I think, I'm probably like many, as I talk about in my presentations, I say, how many here when you were in third grade and your teacher said, what do you want to be when you grow up, jumped out of your seat and said, I want to be in sales. Very few people.
Very few.
Right. And so I think like most, I kind of stumbled, I just stumbled into it. I think probably my first sales experience was, and I'm actually a professional speaker, but kind of an odd career choice because I'm a pretty severe introvert in life. And so in college, I have a journalism degree and went down the marketing track, wanted to become an advertising or did become an advertising copywriter because my goal in life was to pretty much just sit in a closet all day and write ad copy and not have to talk to anybody. Well, then, you get promoted to I got promoted to become a creative director, and part of the job as a creative director is I have to go out and start selling. That actually really led me into the career I'm in now. But the selling part was, I kind of became that accidental salesperson. I guess I wouldn't even, it's kind of a mindset, I think. Sales has such a negative connotation to so many people, and for me, I just kind of said, I'm not in sales. What I really am is trying to figure out what other people, what their issues are, and could I help them achieve their goals more efficiently, more profitably, higher quality than they might be able to do on their own. And if the answer to that is yes, then I tell stories. And so, yes, I'm in sales, but really what I am is a storyteller and hopefully a good listener.
Well, and the thing about that, let's pause there for a second, because that is the adjustment that people have to make getting into sales. And so how long did it take you? Because I know it took me longer than it sounds like it took you to sort of come to that realization early in my career that sales is really about the other person. It was about serving, not pitching something. And once I understood that, it made a huge difference. But yeah, it didn't come naturally to me. How long in your experience do you find that takes reps? Because that's to me, that's the critical adjustment. If you never get over that hurdle, you're not going to stay in the profession.
Well, I think that's right. I think for me, and again, like most folks, you get thrown into sales, and at first it's survival. So you don't really think of that because it's okay. I've got to go in and, for lack of a better term, convince somebody of something. And in fact, I used to joke when I used to get asked to speak to marketing classes. People say, "Well, what do you do for a living?" And I'd say, "Well, if if I do my job well, I can make people buy crap that they don't want. And if I do my job really well, I can make people buy crap that they don't even need. Kind of poking fun at both of my careers,
right.
quote unquote, in sales and in marketing.
Right.
Right, but the reality is, and it was somebody who told me this, and I wish I could remember who it was, because I owe them a huge debt of thanks. And they said, no, what sales really is it's an incredibly noble profession. Because again, what you're really doing is helping other people. You're not trying to convince somebody. So for me, it was having a mentor. Actually, I think I know who it was. A gentleman named Don Craighead, who's kind of been a mentor of mine through the years. Incredibly successful entrepreneur in Minneapolis. I think we were having lunch one day now that I think about it, and he was probably the one who said that to me, that sales is really a noble profession, because done well, you're helping people. You're not convincing anybody to do anything. So like you said, some people probably stumble across it if they want to survive and feel good about themselves. I was blessed to have a good mentor in my life that I think shared that with me.
Yeah, and I had a couple of customers actually that to me were really formative in my early years about sort of teaching me that lesson. I had one, I've written a blog post about this, one client, prospective client I went in to see, and a very sort of courtly older gentleman, and brought me into his office. I went into the lobby not expecting at all that that they would let me see him. He's the CEO of the company. Mm-hmm. But he comes out himself, very graciously introduces himself, takes me back to his office, and sits behind this very clean desk and pulls out a stack of business cards from salespeople selling the product, computer products, I was selling at the time, selling computer systems, and just said, well, I didn't buy from any of these people. Why should I buy from you? Mm-hmm. And it was such a great lesson to say, well, sure. He's saying, I may have a need, but no one's put it in such a way that it makes it seem compelling to me or valuable to me. Yep. And so suddenly I was like, oh, you mean it's not just about pitching. It's about, I got to ask a question. I got to understand you. I got to, in a way that all the lessons in training hadn't really brought home.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, to me, my core expertise, if you will, is in what's called sales intelligence, which is really about, finding information on other people so you can be relevant to what they care about. That's exactly right, because if you think about it, this is kind of how I start my programs, is when you think about your prospects, they're amazingly passionate about one thing. And what is it? Well, it's themselves. Mm-hmm. No offense, they don't care about you. They really don't. What they care about is their problems, and it might not be what you think it is. We go in and we say, well, this guy's got using your example, selling computers or IT services. Well, this guy must have a problem with his IT services that I'm going to solve. Well, that might be at the high level, but when we talk about going from the 50,000 foot level down to the 1 inch level, what's the 1 inch level? Well, this guy has got a boss, and this guy's boss has said, we got these computer problems. Let's say it's computer security as an example. We got these computer security issues we need to fix. By the way, Andy, if you fix this, I'm going to get you a $20,000 bonus, but it's not going to be easy. And that's why I'm going to give you a $20,000 bonus. Now you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, geez, $20,000 bonus, that would be incredible, because my wife has been on my back for the last 3 years to get a new kitchen, and funny, it costs $20,000. And boy, wouldn't that be nice to get her off my back? And so where you as the computer salesperson might be going in and saying, hey, I'm here to solve your computer security issues, you as the buyer, at a 50,000 foot level, that's most important. But what's really most important is if you can solve this issue, you get a bonus. If you get a bonus, you get a new kitchen. If you get a new kitchen, you get the wife off your back. And so if you as a salesperson can actually figure out that motivation and sell against that, that's where you're going to be really successful. Again, kind of an extreme example.
Well, but it's absolute right example, because it's nowhere in there was it about what you were selling. It was about the needs and motivations of the other person, right?
And in fact, there's been many times, as a professional speaker, as an example, where someone will call me and I listen to their needs, and it's now could I take my presentation and twist it and modify it to fit their needs, and would I do a great job? Absolutely, I could do that. But oftentimes, at a gut level, I know that I'm not the right fit, but I know that Andy Paul is a better fit. And so I'll recommend Andy. and that to me is the true essence of a salesperson, is when you are, or I guess the difference between a salesperson and a sales professional, because I think a sales professional goes into a meeting with an attitude of, I'm really here to help the other person achieve their goals, and by the way, that might mean not selling my product. And I'm going to help that person achieve their goal, because somewhere down the line I'm going to get a referral, or somewhere down the line I am going to be the right person. And I think that's the real key. If you want to ask yourself, are you a salesperson or a sales professional? Ask yourself this question: have you ever recommended your competitor to one of your prospects? If the answer is yeah, I've done that before, then you're probably a sales pro.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's a great point to bring out, and I'm not sure we've ever had anybody talk about it that way on the show. It's that distinction between being a salesperson and a sales professional. I like that distinction. And that's a great question to ask yourself. Have you referred your competitor or somebody else? And
somebody else, right?
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, I know I have. It's come back in it's come back in spades for me in the past. And
right.
I had a situation just earlier this year where a colleague, one sales speaker, just like you and I, referred me to another client that they just actually in their case. It wasn't an exact fit and so on, and referred, and it turned out to be a great referral, a great client for me. But it was like being the first time I'd ever really been on the receiving end of that. And it was really interesting. It was almost like, how do you thank somebody?
Yeah, and I think, for in our world, it's a little easier. Versus if you're a person that's selling widgets, do you really want to promote the widget competitor? But I think there's, it's that karma thing, right? It comes back some way. It comes back, and I don't know other than I'm not trying to get all cosmic and kumbaya on people here, but it works. I don't know how else to say it. It works is when your mindset is, I'm really in there to help the other person solve their problem. And now to be a successful salesperson, you have to be a little bit selfish as well. So if your mindset is, goal number one is to help the other person solve their problem. Goal number two, if I can solve their problem, I'm going to make a boatload of money doing it. There's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, we are not. I'm a .com, not a .org. I am in this to make money, as you are. But still, if we have the mindset that it's the other person's, we help them solve their issue. Again, I'm not a salesperson. That's just kind of the side benefit. I'm a solving issue person who just happens to make money because I might have a product that might be better, or it might be the right fit for you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great lesson. So one thing I want to talk about with you was your book about Take the Cold Out of Cold Calling, which is an excellent book, and I recommend people read it. And some great lessons in there. And one that I want to talk about first was one that is almost sort of counterintuitive, but I know it's absolutely right. Is you say that really salespeople are still underutilizing social networks as tools of gaining sales intelligence on their prospects. And so let's talk about that, because we got this proliferation. We got LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and so on, discussion groups, blah 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 blah. But all the talk is out there, but it's still, to your way of thinking, is still being quite underutilized.
Yeah, I think it is. Now, I want to be clear on a distinction. There are a lot of folks that tell you that, you got to participate in social media, some magic silver bullet to sell, and you'll make all this money. And for some industries, for some people, it's the exact right thing to do. But for me, and I could be wrong on this, but I'll just give you some real easy math, Andy, and that is that you can be, in my opinion, you can be the best person on LinkedIn, on Facebook, tweeting great content all the time, participating in groups. It'll take you about an hour a day. And that, by the way, is all important because it's part of the brand building. And if you do it better than 99% of the planet, an hour a day, are you going to get some new business that you otherwise would not have received? Absolutely. 5 clients, 10 clients a year? Hey, average order size of $10,000 a piece, that's pretty good. $100,000 a year, doing some twittering. Sounds like a good deal. But I come from it from a little bit different track, and that is that what I believe is you in that same hour, you can make, and I'll just use phone calls, you can make 6 phone calls. One person you're going to talk to, one person says, call me back, you get 4 voicemails. over a period of a year, depending on how many trade shows and vacations you go to, that's probably anywhere between 1,000 and 1,200 phone calls per year. And any good salesperson, if I say, look, if you can make 1,200 phone calls, but here's the key, to the right person with the right message at the right time, how many deals you think you close? And anybody who's any good will say 20, 50, 100. And so that's where I'm coming from. So when I talk about using social media, it's really more using social media as an intelligence gathering tool, hence sales intelligence, versus a marketing tool. Marketing tool is more in the you're going to share content. And again, I'm not incredibly important because that helps you build the brand. It gets you credibility. But as I like to say, it also gets you in the maybe pile. What's the maybe pile? Well, your great LinkedIn account, your great Facebook account, your testimonials, your reviews, all the people that are saying nice things about you on Facebook, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn. That gets you in the maybe pile. The maybe pile means you're one of three. Now is when you've got to differentiate. And you differentiate by using social media, again, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, to find out what the other person cares about. So when you pick up the phone or email or you're meeting them for coffee, the first words out of your mouth always needs to be about the other person. It could be something about their competition. It could be something about a new product they've just launched. It could just be a congratulations. Hey, I saw you won that award. Or it could just be a connection. Hey, I was on your LinkedIn profile and I see that we went to the same school together. Or we have the same degree, different colleges. But some way where you're connecting with somebody in a way that's relevant to what they care about. Right. So when I talk about social media, that's what I'm talking about is more of an intelligence gathering tool versus a marketing tool. Yeah. Although, again, not that marketing's bad, but my specific expertise is in the intelligence gathering area.
Right. And that's sort of how I phrased the original question. You're saying it's underutilized for gathering intelligence. So
that's correct. Yep.
So what should they be doing?
Well, I mean, if you think about LinkedIn, I mean, there's a perfect example. Why do you have a LinkedIn profile? Well, you have it because you want people to know about you. So, I mean, at a very basic level, I teach what's called the 3x5. Spend 3 minutes trying to find 5 pieces of information or 5 minutes trying to find 3 pieces of information. And LinkedIn for sure. I mean, if I'm going to go meet with somebody, I go to their LinkedIn profile. But don't just go to it because I have some prurient interest or something. Go to it with I'm really looking for a specific piece of information in mind. Again, something in common where the other, does the other person work or did they used to work at a place where you might have a client? Where did they go to school? What interests do they have? So just at a bare minimum, look at LinkedIn and find a little bit of background about the person. So you can connect with them at for lack of a better term, a human level. That's an easy one. Twitter, a little bit less so, but Twitter you can mine. You can use the advanced search capabilities of Twitter to really mine competition. Sales intelligence, you can automate it, so you can save tweets. So let's say you were a prospect that was really important to me. I might set up a specific query within Twitter that pulls back results. I save that search. So anytime so for example, it might be related to a new product launch. So Twitter I might use more for what we call a trigger event. A trigger event is why would somebody at the company take my phone call today versus last week they wouldn't have. Sometimes those trigger events might be a new promotion, a new hire, a new product launch. Twitter, because of its instant news type of and that's what it is. That's what I might use Twitter for, is to kind of get instant insight of what's going on inside a company, which gives me, I call it the second most powerful word in sales, permission. It gives me permission to call that person, to call my contact. Facebook, I'll use if somebody's LinkedIn profile just isn't very robust. Now you got to use that one carefully. What I'm looking for in Facebook on an intelligence side is really some personal things about the, do they have kids? How old are the kids? What sports do they like? If they like, or hobbies, religious affiliation, political affiliation. I might not use that information when I meet with somebody. It's a little freaky, but it does. If I know somebody has children, it does guide me to ask better questions. So, for example, I have a son who plays baseball. if I know that you have a son that plays baseball, I'm not going to say that when we first meet. That's a little spooky. But there will be a point in time where you turn around to me and say, Sam, tell me a little bit about yourself. Now, normally I'm not going to tell you that I have a son that plays baseball. But if I know that you do, I might say, well, I've got a family. I've got an awesome wife, been married 23 years. I've got a son who plays baseball. And I'll just throw that out because I know there's a pretty decent chance you're going to say, oh, I've got a son who plays baseball. And again, now we're connecting at that human level, at that relevant level. So those are the kinds of ways at a high level that I might use different sorts of social media as an intelligence gathering tool.
Now, in your book, though, you talk about the invisible web.
Yes.
Which I presume you're not talking about the dark web, but...
the dark web's part of the invisible web, so yes.
Okay. So what is it, how are you defining the invisible web, and how does somebody... find it and use it for prospecting.
Sure.
And, gathering sales intelligence.
So I think the invisible web, my definition would be any website that is, for lack of a better term, invisible to Google. Now, why can't Google find a website? It's called indexing a website. So if you think of Google as a vacuum cleaner, it kind of sucks up words, stores the words in the vacuum cleaner bag or the database. You go into Google, type in 3 words. All Google's doing is saying, where do those 3 words appear? Most often in my vacuum cleaner bag. There are sites that Google can't vacuum up. Matter of fact, it's the far majority of the internet. Now, those could be websites that are just poorly built. Kind of Google can't find anything there. But more likely than not, it's for and then there's the whole, like you said, the deep web, and that's where the hackers of the world hang out. We're not talking about that. The easiest way to define the invisible web for the average salesperson is websites where you have to register to access the information. So registration's free, so it's the free and publicly accessible internet. So let's say you go to an industry association website. They've got an online magazine. There's 100,000 articles there. All 100,000 articles are free if you register. But you have to register. Well, Google can't register. And whoever owns that website doesn't want Google to find the article because if you could find the article via Google search, there'd be no reason to go to their website and register. That'd probably be the easiest example of the invisible web. And there's lots of great sites like that. I mean, Facebook technically is an invisible website by that definition. It's free, but I got to log in if I want to access it. So Facebook would be on the invisible web, if you will.
So give some examples, let's say, of well, you gave one with the trade association, but I was thinking of sort of this in context of you've got this search engine you've developed, some custom search engines to help salespeople find more sales intelligence. And so how do they work? And maybe talk a little bit about those, the You Got News and You Got Social, and how do they sort of overlay with this invisible web? Do they help with that?
Well, yeah, I think those are perfectly good examples of the invisible web, because I guess another definition of the invisible web is any website that does show up on Google, but after page 3, because no one looks at it. So in a sense, it's invisible anyhow. So that's kind of what You Got the News is. So I'm a big proponent, again, is never walk into a meeting without having a piece of information on another person. Well, how do you get information? News articles. So when I'm researching a company, or sometimes even researching a person, you type their name, type it in Google, and now make sure you type it in quotation marks. When you type a proper noun within quotation marks, you pull up the exact phrase versus Google thinks it's an and. So if I go in and into Google, type in Andy Paul, I get you, but I also get a lot of websites on Andy Smith and Paul Jones. But if I put Andy Paul within quotation marks, every result will be Andy Paul. And so when I'm searching on a company, I put it within quotation marks. And then on the results page, you'll get all your stuff. But there'll be a little tab there called News. And I'll click on the News button. And what I'm looking for is news articles. By the way, if you want to sort your news articles by date, there's a little button there called Search Tools. Click the Search Tools button, and a little drop-down menu appears. You can sort your articles by date. Well, that works really well if you're calling on a larger company. But a lot of us, most of us, are calling on small businesses.
Sure, small and mid-sized companies, right?
And they're not going to show up in Google News. They're going to show up in the Lakeshore, because Google News is looking at like CNN, USA Today, Wall Street Journal. It'll also look at the Chicago Tribunes of the world, but most of our clients are showing up in the Lakeshore Weekly News, right? Those small weekly publications. So what I've done with You Got the News is basically, if you think of Google as a vacuum cleaner, this is a vacuum cleaner, but it's only looking at news articles. Again, it's going to look at the USA Todays of the world, but it's also going to look at the Lakeshore Weekly News and the Poughkeepsie Times. And when you use the search engine, there's also some tabs on the result page. So only show me national news, only show me business news, only show me press releases. So it allows you to sort your news in a way. So now, could I find many of those news articles if I copied the exact headline of the news article, did a Google search? Probably. So are they technically invisible? I guess not, because Google can find them if you tell Google exactly what to look for. But in a sense, it's invisible, because if you do a search on a company and there's 3 million results, that might be in the 2 million range. Mm-hmm. So all I'm doing with You Got the News is kind of pulling them to the top as an example. So mining the visible/invisible web on that one.
Okay, very cool. So that's You Got the News. So that's, again, for people listening, that's a custom search engine you developed to help sales professionals, salespeople, gain intelligence on customers that potential customers might not otherwise rise to the first page or second page of Google represents.
Yeah, and it's completely free. You don't have to register. Just a quick funny story that you'll probably appreciate. So in my first book back in 2008, there was a really great news search engine that I featured. It was 2 chapters of the book. Well, they went out of business. And as Andy, as someone who can appreciate, because you've written books before, I had 2 choices. I could either recreate the technology or rewrite 2 chapters of the book. And trust me, recreating the technology was a lot less painful than writing 2 chapters. So that's how we came up with that one.
Especially working with the publisher, right?
Exactly. So for me, it was I need a replacement for the chapters.
Okay, so you got one. Yeah, You Got the News. So now you got social.
You Got Social. Yeah. So You Got Social is an interesting one because Facebook. There's 1.6 billion users on Facebook. So if I go into Facebook and type in, to try to find Andy Paul in Facebook, I don't know the number, but I bet you it's 3,000 or 4,000.
Good luck. I'm sure there's a lot of it, right?
And so what You Got Social is it's really more of a guided search. And I really got the idea in some of the code from a gentleman named Michael Basil, who Michael is a brilliant online dude. I think he was like head of the FBI cyber division or something like that. And so I took a lot of his work and just made it more meaningful, if you will, for salespeople. And so what it allows you to do is it's kind of using a series of pull down menus. Well, I'm looking for Andy Paul, and so I can type in a name, and then the next I click the and button. The next pull down menu I can choose maybe job title. So for you, I might put in speaker or author or blogger or whatever. Mm-hmm. If I know where you might live, I might type in New York or I might type in San Diego. And so I get the right Andy Paul. But where it's also pretty cool, not only researching an individual, and this was not my intention in doing it, but I've been using it this way, and it's pretty fabulous. It's actually an amazing list building tool. So, for example, I do a lot of work in the financial services industry. Financial advisors like to do events where they like to invite people to an event. One event that oftentimes advisors like to do is they like to do wine tasting events for wealthy people. There's lots of places where I can go get the demographics of somebody, where I can go online and say, okay, find me all CEOs in Minneapolis, assuming a CEO is a higher net worth individual. But where do you go and find CEOs in Minneapolis who like wine? And by the way, our Wisconsin Badger football fans. How do you do that? Well, Facebook, You Got Social allows you to do that. So find me all CEOs in Minneapolis who like Wisconsin Badgers and also like red wine. Now, am I getting every person in Minneapolis who is a CEO who likes the Badgers and likes wine? Of course not. Somebody has to self-identify that on their Facebook page. Mm-hmm. But it's crazy what you can do on the site. And I recently added a power search button. I'm still refining it, where that's where it gets really cool, because so on your Facebook page, you so go to, if you log into Facebook, I type in Andy Paul, if I look at the web address of your Facebook page, it's going to be a certain name. My Andy.Paul.423, something like that. Well, I'm going to grab that name. I can go into the power search area of YouGo at Social, type in that name, and it will give me your unique Facebook identifier number. So think of that as your social security number for your Facebook page.
Right.
Well, now that I have that, there's a number of other search tools that I've built in there where you can say, well, based on that number, find all photos that other people have commented on related to Andy. Find me all of Andy's friends. Find me all of Andy's relatives. Find me all of the places that Andy's friends like. So when I'm researching a person, it really can give me a really complete picture of who that individual is. Now, do we really need to do that if I'm selling computer, toner printer? No. But if I'm a financial advisor, an insurance person, if I'm asking for a referral,
if you're selling a complex product to a C-level person, I mean, it's
for sure.
Yeah, for
sure. But it's a little spooky, to be honest with you, the stuff you can find.
Well, and you sort of have written about this in many cases about the dangers of having too much information about yourself out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Paradoxically, I mean, even though you're developing the tools to help us get it, but at the same time, I think having done that, you've seen that, we need to be cautious.
Well, we sure do. And I give a whole program on that. So if my main program is sales intelligence, which is how to find information on other people, I do another one. It's called Don't Steal the Cheesecake. There's a story I tell about that. But it's all about how, in a digital world, you need to assume that everybody's searching on you. And they are. And how do you control what they find? And, the reality is, I think we all know this, but the book 1984, Big Brother is Here. I mean, Big Brother is here. We are all Big Brother, by the way, because everybody with an iPhone is a Big Brother. Just as kind of a side note. So yesterday, my wife and I went to get our driver's license renewed, and we decided to get these enhanced driver's licenses because in Minnesota, you're going to be required to do it within a year if otherwise you can't get on a plane. And in filling out the enhanced driver's license form, many of your listeners probably already have done this, but they might not even know what that is. Did you know that in an enhanced driver's license, they embed in the driver's license an RFID chip with an antenna? And my wife asked me, why are they doing that? And I said, because theoretically,
they're tracking you.
They're tracking you. Like, right. To find an iPhone device, it's probably like that. I mean, they could find my driver's license. So it's kind of, it's a little scary, all the stuff that's out there. And by the way, nothing disappears. I mean, just as a side note, not to be political, but everyone talks about, Hillary Clinton's emails, and she deleted 30,000 emails. No, she didn't. I mean, she may have deleted them off of her server, but at one point in time, somebody hits send, and once they hit send, they go through the internet, if you will. So they've gone through somebody else's server. Theoretically, it was captured. But by the way, it ended up on somebody else's computer or mobile device. So they never disappear. Nothing disappears. And I guess that's the real lesson from the flip side of it is, I try to teach you how to find information in an ethical way and use it ethically to build relationships. On the flip side is you need to know that everything you do in a digital format, theoretically somebody can find, including where your driver's license is at any given point in time. So it's kind of a scary world we live in.
Yeah, because it works both ways. I mean, certainly buyers will do, prospective employers, will do research into you. And now this is not a mystery anymore that prospective employers might look at your Facebook, but they're looking at a lot more these days.
But it's not just your Facebook page, Andy, because you might be doing everything perfectly. So I'm going to hire you, and I'm going to hire you for you're going to be my number 2 guy. This is the most important hire I've ever made at my company. With You Got Social as an example, I can go in and not only search you and now
search my friends, what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, everything.
With your friends, what they're doing. And it's kind of that guilt by association. I can find a lot by who the people you hang out with the most, right? And what's that old saying? You become the 5 people you hang out with the most. So I'm going to research the 5 people you hang out with the most. And, because you're a really smart guy, Andy, you might have, for lack of a better term, scrubbed your Facebook account and it's perfect. But then I go look at your friends and I'm like, okay, this is how they feel. So I'm going to make judgments based on who you hang out with.
Yeah, I only hang out with people that aren't active on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the new criteria we're choosing our friends and associates by. And so, Sam, now we're moving into the last segment of the show where I've got some standard questions I ask all my guests.
Sure.
And so the first one's a hypothetical scenario. And in this scenario, you, Sam, have just been hired as vice president of sales at a company whose sales have hit a rough patch. And CEO and the board are anxious to hit the reset button, get things back on track. And so the question is, what could you do? What two things could you do your first week on the job that could have the biggest impact?
Well, I think the first thing is you don't want to jump and you think you're an expert and try to change everything. So what I would do is I would think I would really look at the people. Who is on my sales team and what's their background? Let's assume that the company I've just been hired at has done a good job of hiring salespeople, at least based on their background. They've got good resumes. They've been successful in the past. Okay, let's assume that I have a pretty decent product. So sales are down. I look at it and I say, well, okay, first off, so I'm going to, I'll take a sales guy. We'll call him Joe. So Joe, when I look at Joe's resume, man, he's been awesomely successful everywhere he's been. So when we hired him at Widget Corporation, did like his first day on the job, did he just get amnesia? Like, did he forget everything? Is that likely? No, probably not. Okay, so we probably have the right people. It's that Jim Collins thing. Do we have the right people on the bus? So that's the first thing. Do we have the right? So assuming that we got the right people on the bus, they didn't have amnesia the second they started on the job, then the next question is, well, do we have the right product? And so that's a little bit more of an analysis of maybe talking to some customers. Who is our competition? Is there a market for our product? Does anybody care anymore? I mean, are we still selling AOL CDs? Probably not a large market anymore. But let's, is our product any good? Got to find that out. Let's assume the answer is yes. Obviously, there's marketing material and those kinds of things. You're going to evaluate and look at. But one of the things that I think is so important. So, assuming you've got good people, assuming you've got a decent product at a fair price, because again, if you don't have those things, you got to go fix those first. But assuming that's all true, then there's only one other thing, and that is, are my people being trained effectively? Trained effectively to prospect, trained effectively to negotiate, to sell, to provide value. Because I would say, for the most part, based on my experience, that's where we see the issues. They haven't been trained. We hire these really smart people who have great resumes, and we say, here's our wonderful product. Now go sell some stuff, and we just let them go.
Right.
And or as you see sometimes, Andy, we take our best sales guy and we promote him to sales manager, and we say make everybody like you, and that oftentimes doesn't work because a friend of mine, Spencer Siegel, coined the phrase, and I love it. It's called unconsciously competent. If I ask a salesperson what makes you successful, like seriously, I want you to think about it, they'll be able to write down 15 things. If you actually follow that person with a video camera, you'll notice the 78 things that they do. But most of them, they just don't even know they're doing.
Right.
And so, again, to me, it comes back to management. Do you have the right people, and are those people training their teams effectively? So that's what I would probably look at first.
All right, good. That'd be a busy first week. So now I've got some rapid fire questions for you. Just
for sure.
Give me one-word answers, or you can elaborate a little bit if you wish. So the first one is, when you, Sam Richter, are out selling your services, what's your most powerful sales attribute?
I use the line, or a modification of this. Hey, Andy, before I meet with people, I like to do a little bit of homework. You're a super busy guy, and I don't want to waste your time. And guess what I found? I tell the person what I find, and then I be quiet and listen. And usually when you find something cool and you let the other person elaborate on it, they tell you some awesome stories, and it gives you permission to ask better questions.
Okay, good answer. So next question, I think you answered already earlier. Who's your sales role model?
Oh, wow. Gosh, there's so many. I think if I were to really go back and think of who's the best salesperson, the best sales book that I've read of all time, I'd go back to Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Because I think that's what sales is all about. You're trying to influence people, but you're trying to build friendships as well. And so I'd have to say Dale Carnegie.
Okay. Well, you also answered the next question, which is one book you think every salesperson should read. So, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Can I give you two more?
Oh, sure.
Another Carnegie one, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, because I think as salespeople we worry too. As people, we worry too much.
Absolutely.
And then Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Great book.
I'm not the first that have ever said those three, but I think if you read those three books, pretty much all the other books. The articles you've written, Andy, the stuff I've written, are all based on the original concepts in those books. We've just maybe modernized or put a different twist on those. But if you memorize those three books, you're going to do really well.
Okay, I agree. Good recommendations, especially about the stop worrying. And last question: what music's on your playlist right now?
Wow, none. I used to have Spotify. I now have Amazon Music because I did the $99 Prime thing, and now I feel that I've got to get my $99. So I'm fascinated how fun it is to go through. And so one day I'll listen to jazz, and one day I'll listen to 80s, and one day I'll listen to classical. So I don't really have any music that's on my playlist other than I'm just fascinated with how cool Amazon Music is.
All right, great answer. I love it. All right. Well, Sam, thanks for being on the show today. Tell people how they can get in touch with you or connect with you. Sure.
It's real easy. SamRichter.com, SamRichter.com, or just go into Google and type in Sam Richter. And if I'm any good at what I do, I better show up number one. If I don't show up number one, don't hire me, because that means I don't know what I'm talking about.
There's the test. Love it when people put themselves out on the line. That's great. Well,
absolutely.
Sam, thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you.
And remember, friends, make it a part of your day every day to deliberately learn something new to help you accelerate your success. And easy way to do that is take a minute, subscribe to this podcast, Accelerate. That way you won't miss any of my conversations with top business experts like my guest today, Sam Richter, who shared his expertise about how to accelerate the growth of your business. So thanks for joining me, and until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.